Wow, house is open. Check this out. All right. This is exciting here. People are streaming in, they're flowing in, and we're going to start in just a couple of minutes. This is great. A Funhouse Philosophers Presents program tonight. Up until now, we've been doing the Coney Island Museum with Ask the Experts. This is the really sort of one of the, well, actually the first Funhouse Philosophers online event. And this group has been working really, really hard over the last few months with what everybody here is going to see tonight. And we got a nice group of people here already. We'll start in just a couple of minutes and have some fun here. And I've seen some of the previews, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, the
world premiere
is right. Now, the only thing is that I decided to change my setup here rather than the normal Ask the Expert setup where I'm sitting on a sofa. I'm sitting on an office chair, and periodically the hydraulic system does shrink. So at various points, you might see me getting up and adjusting it because I didn't get the little mechanism to fix it. So at some point, if I sort of end up like that, it'll be time to fix. But that said, I think we can probably do our little introduction here and then begin with the program. So welcome everybody to a workshop of the Bettie Page program, the Becoming Bettie Page, a Coney Island USA and a Funhouse Philosophers program. Now, for those of you that don't know, and hopefully everybody knows, Coney Island USA is Coney Island's resident not-for-profit arts organization. We're the ones that bring you the Coney Island Circus Sideshow every spring through fall in our landmark building at 1208 Surf Avenue. Also home to the Freak Bar downstairs, the Coney Island Museum upstairs, and the Sideshows by the Seashore Theater, where in a perfect world, this Funhouse Philosophers event would be taking place. Of course, we are kind of dark right now, and we hope to open up soon. We're also the people that bring you the Mermaid Parade every June. That's not going to happen in June either, but remember to stay tuned to coneyisland.com and all of our social media outlets, because we will be announcing hopefully a date in September. So please check that out. And you can become a member at Coney Island USA as well. So here's how things are going to work this evening. First of all, we're going to have a presentation. We're going to meet the people involved with this Funhouse Philosophers presentation. But before we get to any of that, we want to make sure that your settings are correct. So in the chat feature, you can set your chat to all panelists and attendees. And this way, everybody can see your comments and your questions. Now, another thing that I'm going to ask is if you're using the chat feature, and this is specifically for the chat feature, you can use the Q&A as well, but just for the chat feature, if you would write, or rather type, your name before or after your question or comment, because the names tend to get lost in that chat feature, and then we don't know who's asking the questions. We can't call you out on our Zoom and give you the recognition that you deserve. So, of course, the Q&A, that seems like, from our experience here, the names do remain in that Q&A. So what we're going to do is we're going to meet some of our involved, those that are involved, the directors, the actors, the writers, and I'm going to start off. We're going to ask for the poster here, I believe, of the 2018 working of Becoming Bettie Page. There it is. And now I'm going to introduce the artistic director and the force behind the Funhouse Philosophers, Dick Zigun.
Hi, everybody. Doing these broadcasts on social media while we're waiting to reopen our art center and do live performances inside, in some ways is an opportunity to connect with fans of our programs and stay in touch. The lectures once or twice a week for the Coney Island Museum talks have been absolutely terrific. This is an opportunity, perhaps not only to update with fans of Funhouse Philosophers, but maybe a few of you out there were not familiar with our most avant-garde program, our most experimental program, often our off-season but much beloved program. In the 80s and 90s, from the start, Coney Island, USA was doing experimental theater, and we got a lot of attention. The theater company was funded by the prestigious National Endowment for the Arts, New York State Council on the Arts, New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. But the program went into a slump with funding cuts, and when we lost our original space, and when we moved in to the building we now own, the Landmark building, the place was kind of raw, and we didn't have a decent theater space. We did walk through Halloween shows as theater, but then 8 years ago, when we had an executive director, Meryl Vladimir, who had been an administrator at La Mama, she had recommended that we coalesce a new theater program under the name of a company that would give it an identity that would lead to better funding. So 8 years ago, we created the avant-garde theater company Funhouse Philosophers, which tries to find unique stories that aren't told, that come out of popular culture. Sometimes they come out of Coney Island themselves, and find unusual ways other than traditional playwriting to tell those stories. For example, just a few years back, we did a show about teenage Al Capone truthfully getting his scar in Coney Island. And part of the way we told that story was with the actors having a food fight with the audience, throwing spaghetti around. It's what we do at Funhouse Philosophers. So this is a long way to orient you toward when we bought our building, which is a landmark, and it was turning 100 years old. I was doing research on the building, and our building that's over a century old and a landmark started out as a child's restaurant in the 1920s up until World War II. And then approximately from 1945 to 1955, it was a rhythm and blues nightclub with a primarily African-American clientele. And doing further research, a very wonderful barrel house boogie woogie blues musician, champion Jack Dupree, who performed his whole life on the cusp of the birth of rock and roll. It turns out champion Jack Dupree was the house pianist at the Bluebird Casino when it was an African-American rhythm and blues nightclub called the Bluebird Casino. So I started on YouTube checking out music, songs by champion Jack Dupree. And there was this one song that I later now know that Bettie Page didn't purposely choreograph a dance to it. But at the time, I thought Bettie Page perhaps liked and knew champion Jack Dupree. I knew that Bettie Page had been discovered in Coney Island, cut her bangs in Coney Island. And I went, well, I'm the Coney Island historian. It's actually likely that Bettie Page, if she met a photographer on the beach and needed to cut her bangs, and Bettie Page was a Southern white woman, the photographer was a Black man, maybe they went to the Bluebird Casino and she cut her bangs there, and she heard the music of champion Jack Dupree there, and that would lead into other characters. So that was a concept. I realized immediately I was in collaborators when I started researching Champion Jack Dupree and Bettie Page's first camera clubs. There's a lot of Black culture, Harlem culture, Black music. There's a lot of burlesque performance. I needed to be working with women, smart women with theater backgrounds, and I am so blessed to have Chicava, Honeychild, and Seedy, Edie working with me on this project. So I came up with a scenario for about 30, 40 minutes worth of material that took Bettie Page from the day she's discovered into Coney Island to her living New York City about 10 years later. And then Chicava and Edie were mostly working on Bettie's voice when she becomes older. When we got another grant to further the show and we can't have audience, I thought, well, why don't we recreate Bettie Page's silent fetish films? And then in a future production, we'll take these silent films and Bettie older can be watching her earlier films and commenting on them. I had no idea what Seedy Edie was going to do, but I'm going to shut up, let Chicava tell you about what you did in 2018, and then let Seedy introduce her screenplay. Thanks for watching, folks.
Hey everyone. So I joined up, I'm Chicava Honeychild. I joined this project at Dick's invitation in, I guess, late 2017. And we put up a workshop in the spring, summer of 2018. And what we were looking to do is follow the course of events. Before I started working on the project, I was quite familiar with Bettie Page, but not familiar with the behind the scenes of Bettie Page. It's very easy for her to be an image, and a remarkable image, very much most likely the second most photographed woman of the time after Marilyn Monroe. And like Monroe, never really took a bad picture. And their lives too, I find them an interesting comparison for how their careers went and the challenges. Like there's a tragic end to Marilyn Monroe's life that we see kind of in the hands of the system. But with Bettie, because she lived more of an underground artist's life, the things that cut her career short are a tragedy of government system, but she maintained a level of sovereignty that a Hollywood actress didn't have at the time, that they had become more, they were commodities within their own career, within their own stardom. So Bettie was interesting for all the things that she's been through and overcome, and the ability to show up each day at this job with an undeniable joy in her eyes and brightness of spirit is something, her resilience is something that really appeals to me. So I think Adam is going to pull up pictures. We're going to just take a few pictures, look at the screen production. So in our stage production, thank you, Norman Blake, for sharing these pictures with us. We took ourselves through, like, this was a scene of her first photo shoot with Tibbs, where she runs into the bathroom and cuts the bang in the fairly famous red bikini. You can advance. And this, we had a lot of fun in terms of the transformation into the bondage queen, and turned it into a bit of a musical number. And we used the Champion Jack Dupree catalog as the backbone for all of it. So each of these moments is set to that sound. You can advance, Adam. And this is her and Tibbs again. Tibbs and Betty became very good friends. It was a nice camaraderie that they shared, and he continued to check on her through the course of time. Go ahead, Adam. And Edie had been planning to get this super cute Nurse Betty look made, so we incorporated it into the image in terms of this is a neat image because it superimposes a real life Betty over the created Betty, since I believe the nurse image comes from illustrations after her career had ended. Go ahead, Adam. And well, yeah, this is the end of a love affair that there is a turning point with the Kefauver hearings and how she's feeling about where she's at in age and time, and yet another broken heart. The fellas could have been a little luckier. We can say that, but this is that moment where it's time for a change. Go ahead and advance, Adam. And that's us looking at that change. Go ahead. Yep. And that's just a quickie, a quick breeze through the stage production. We had a really, really talented group of artists and a whole bunch of fun putting this up behind the shooting gallery at Coney Island. And this edition has been fun because we looked back at that, but then decided to go in one voice because in limited time and limited budget, how would we incorporate all those people? And that brought us to where we are today when we kind of elevated Edie, and it turned into, we started writing together, and I just let her take the wheel because we got to a moment where we were doing good, but it was like, it needs to be your voice and go with it. So I'll let Seedy and Edie introduce us to the screenplay and the visuals we're about to see.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, it was such a trip to see those pictures again. Yeah, the nice thing about doing the play in 2018 was that I got to go through the journey that we're hoping the audience goes through, which is to hear the story from the woman herself, a story of somebody that you probably don't know. I feel like I was in the same boat as everyone else, that I just knew Betty from her image, and didn't really have a clue about what she had gone through in her life. So it was a really valuable experience, and I was so pleased to come on board for a further workshop of this play, because I feel like though she is this symbol of a different time and place, a lot of the themes of the experiences that she went through in her life are still very relevant to the experiences of a woman in 2021. And yeah, not every person's life is well suited to being told through narration, first person narration, but I think in this case it really serves us because we don't have that much of her from her own words, and the people that have heard the story from her own words are kind of a niche group. It's just not a story we've heard told yet, so it made sense to kind of have it be through her words. And honestly, I gotta say, I'm just so pleased at the process, because I came on board this year as talent, and we started out deciding to make these recreations of these Super 8 movies. And then you don't always get to be a part of such a magical creation process where it becomes so collaborative. And I feel really happy with and pleased and blessed that Chicava and Dick really allowed me to have a seat at the table here, and be a part of the form of the story we were telling. And it kind of happened organically that I have done some writing before, and I felt like I wanted to contribute, and they very generously let me. And what came out of it was a really lovely telling, that gives us a great insight into what's so special about the play, and also what's so special about Betty. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And I don't know who I'm serving it to. Sorry.
I'll take it from here. All right. Well, thank all of you. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at some video of the show, and we'll talk a little bit more about the video after the video presentation and why we're actually watching video. And at any point, remember, during the program, if any of you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat or in the Q&A area. And once we finish, we'll bring everybody back and we'll have our Q&A. So
the folks know the video runs about 18 minutes.
All right. Okay, let's roll the video.
Have such a great connection.
Do we need to do a share sound?
I think we're missing the audio.
All right, let's see if we can get some audio on that. And until we get the audio, Dick, what do you want to share with us?
Although Coney Island, USA has been trying to share programming on social media, it's often very difficult. And we've encountered problems before.
We're trying to share audio, and let's give this a roll now.
My name's Bettie Page.
Yeah.
I was born April 22nd, 1923 in Nashville, Tennessee. I was the second of 6. We were dirt poor. We didn't have nothing. Anyway, I don't have the foggiest notion of why this would be interesting to anybody, but here goes. There are a few small moments in a person's life that are actually big moments in disguise. These tiny miracles where a change comes along so quick you barely feel it. But then you look around and you're somewhere entirely different. Like how the breeze picks up a feather and carries it off. And it's yours. And you're still you, but the world has shifted under your feet. I was walking down the beach one day, and my life changed.
Emporiums of pleasure, with movement, way out wild movement.
That day, a whole new life came in on the wind, just for me. A kind of fantasy life. Except like nothing I could have ever imagined when I was a child. That day at Coney Island, after I'd returned to New York.
Topless dancers wildly gyrating before your eyes.
I'd already lived many places in my life. I'd come once to the city, ran away, came back. All to end up on the beach that day. And after that, well, then came all the rest of my lives.
We ought to not be too glued to this world and all the evils of the world and the things of the world, the materialism of the world. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. And men will be changed, and we will have bodies.
But let's start here, shall we? Becoming Bettie Page.
Shim sham shimmy, shim sham shimmy, shim sham shimmy.
Coney Island, 1950. I was walking out on Coney Island one day and I met this black fella, Jerry Tibbs. He gave me his card and said, "I think you'd make a good pinup model." He said, "I have a studio. I'll make you up a portfolio free of charge." So I went and we took some pictures. And he said, "Betty, have you ever tried to wear bangs?" He said, "You've got yourself quite a forehead, Betty. I think you'd look real good in bangs." I said, "Well, sure, why not? I've been wearing my hair this way all my life, never thought to change it. Let's give it a go." So, I've cut me some. And I've been wearing them ever since. Pinup legend. Jerry published my first cover on a Harlem newsprint magazine. He was a very good photographer. We shot together many times. All the time I was in New York, he'd phone me up and see how I was every now and again. He really started it all for me, and I'm very grateful to him for that. I was about 27 when I started modeling. I looked much younger. When all the writers and editors would say I was 22 years old, I let them think what they wanted to. The first modeling I did was for the camera clubs. 30 or 40 camera club members, 3 or 4 models. I got $25 a day. They were always polite and courteous. I always enjoyed posing for them. I learned to pose from movie star pictures in magazines and newspapers when I was young. We'd play a game called Program, where my sisters and I would try to mimic their poses. We'd even get out in the front yard with our underwear on. I always loved posing. Then I found out I could make more money posing nude in 2 hours than I'd make all week as a secretary. I never had any bad feelings about posing in the nude or semi-nude outfits. I used to take air baths because you know air baths are very good for you. I've done that since I was a teenager, so I didn't feel squeamish. Air baths. You don't have a stitch of clothes on for 15-20 minutes, and you gotta have the windows open. Try it sometime. It's exhilarating. But nudity back then was very unusual. One time with the camera clubs, we were upstate shooting on a farm. Somebody, some old fogey no doubt, noticed us and went to the police. Said we were running around in the woods in the buff over there. They charged us with indecent exposure. I said, "I'm not indecent. I will not plead guilty to that. I don't believe God disapproves of nudity. After all, he put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, naked as jaybirds." I demanded the release form be rewritten, reduced to disorderly conduct. And that judge warned us never to come into his county again. Well, I was quite the firecracker by then. I wasn't going to let anyone, no man, not even a judge, decide I was indecent. By then, I knew better how to stand up for myself, how to watch out for people trying to snatch your own idea of yourself away from you. I didn't always know how to do that. When I arrived in New York the first time, before the modeling, well, I was running from a failed relationship, but not yet divorced. I'd married far too young, you see. I loved the city. The lights on Broadway, Central Park. All I paid for my apartment on West 46th Street was $46.29 a month. I used to go to the Roseland Ballroom. I went dancing so much. One night I was walking along Broadway and a good-looking fella came up, started talking to me, very polite. He asked me to go dancing and I said, "Sure, I'd love to go." I just thought it'd be fun. I hop in the car, thinking it's safe because it's him and I and another couple. We stopped at a red light and 2 guys jumped in the car. We went a bit farther. 2 more fellas got in the car. That's when it hit me. I got this ice-cold feeling as we crossed the bridge, and I thought, we are not going dancing. Assault survivor. Ooh, that feels strange to say out loud. Survivor. I don't like the assault bit. You can imagine how you would have felt then. 6 men in the car and 2 women. Then the gal and the guy in the front seat get out of the car. We were parked somewhere under the Delancey Bridge. I thought fast and said, I can't, I've got my period. They listened, but all 5 of those snakes forced me to give them oral sex. Every single one of them. They could have killed me and left me for dead. I went home to Mama right away after that. I didn't tell her, mind you. I didn't tell anyone. But I went home straight away. I was so frightened. I tried to make it work with my old life, my marriage. But men are so disappointing. Either rabid animals, like the men in that car, or so jealous they can't even think straight. Anyway, it didn't work out. Funny thing was, despite that horrible thing happening to me, it wasn't too long before I came back to the city.
Love.
The wind picked me up and carried me back where I was meant to be.
Careless love.
Whatever had happened, I knew I still belonged to myself. It was a terrible thing, but I'd known terrible things before. I knew I wasn't ruined or dirty. I knew I was destined for more. I had to come back. And then suddenly, here I was.
My soul.
Back in New York, about a year or so after I started modeling, it was going really well. I was the favorite of the camera clubs and in a bunch of magazines with the silliest names. Wink, Titter, Beauty Parade, Eiffel. Around that time, I heard another silly name, Irving Claw. Well, he had a big business selling our photos, he and his sister Paula. He was a real sweet fella. They were so nice. I was the most famous model he'd ever had. He had some 1,500 pictures of me. I was his star, but we were friends. He had these 7-inch heels, his one pair that he kept for me only, that I could wiggle in, kick around in. We even filmed a scene where I pretended I could barely walk in them. I love those things.
Well, my grandma was too old to go. She listened in on the radio. Her feet got happy and she pulled up her dress. First thing she hollered at, boogie's a mess. And that's the boogie woogie, don't you know?
Bondage queen. Ridiculous. I'm noted for being the #1 bondage queen, that's what they called me. Most of that work came from requests you'd get in the mail. And they like to see women helpless, tied up. I always thought, live and let live. What's the harm, you know? Anyway, it was some kind of acting gig. I loved being dramatic. That's how I always thought of it.
From your head down to your toe. Anytime I order something, boy, there ain't gonna be no clothes. I'm gonna order me a woman. Yeah, I'm gonna order me a woman. I'm gonna order me a woman. It ain't gonna be no clothes. I'm gonna order me a woman. Fine as a woman can be. A man or a woman who made it right for me. I'm gonna order me a woman. Yeah, me a woman. I'm gonna me a woman. I done come to town.
Criminal? Senator Eustace Kefauver. He's from my home state, you know. He was trying to drum up votes by going after juvenile delinquency and pornography. People really felt that anything that got people excited by sex was a bad thing. Even to talk about sex in the 1950s was taboo. Anything lewd could be treated as a crime if it was circulated through the mail. Nudity alone was considered to be obscene. So these two guys came to me and said, "Betty, we want you to testify against Irving Claus, a pornographer." I said, "What are you talking about?" The committee was blaming me for contributing to juvenile delinquency because that poor boy accidentally killed himself while looking at one of my bondage photos. He died by way of self-strangulation, sexual asphyxiation. Now, that was just a terrible accident, and I was so sorry to hear about it. But we were miles away from that boy in his room. It just didn't make any sense that it would be Irvin's fault or mine. Kefauver and his committee. Ugh. I told them I'm not testifying and lying about Irving. I said, "You can't force me to do it." I said, "I won't." Well, the judge told him and Paula, "You want to keep your freedom? Destroy all the negatives." Nearly all his pictures were burned, and it just ruined him. It all felt different after that. I thought I was getting too old to model. There were so many pictures of me already. I thought the photographers were getting tired of me. And after all those unhappy experiences, one day I just left everything. Just as quick as I came back. Rode out on the wind. That didn't feel like a big moment at the time either, the leaving. But I guess it was. I had no idea what else was waiting for me in life. Both the bad and the good. The darkness and the light.
And man will be changed, and we will have bodies like unto the bodies of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Or as Philip
For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, the voice of the archangel, and the dead in Christ shall rise.
Hi, sir. I'm just out here sharing the word of God with folks today. May I give you a pamphlet and tell you about how Jesus saved my life? Hi, sir. Ma'am, how are you today? Are you saved? May I give you a pamphlet and tell you about how Jesus saved my life? Do you know the word of God? Ma'am, how are you saved today? He sent his only begotten Son to save us, and I just want to spread the good news. Do you know the word of God? Icon? I wouldn't say that.
Emporiums of pleasure, with movement, way out wild movement. Topless dancers wildly gyrating before your eyes.
You know, my family never said a word to me about it. The modeling, the magazines, never commented to me about it, and neither did my mother. But one time, I was looking in her closet when she was gone to work, and I found a whole big stack of pinup magazines, with my pictures marked and the pages turned down in it. Never said a word to me, one way or the other, about it. Never even mentioned it, and I didn't either. I sure was happy I found them, though. I didn't have an easy childhood or an easy life, but I never felt like a victim. Not with my mother. She did the best she could. Not with my louse of a daddy. With the men, not with any of them. You know, anything can happen in life in the briefest of moments, both bad and good. There's a miracle in that, because it means that in an instant, things can shift. As easy as sand under your feet, as sure as the tide. Nothing bad ever breaks you for long, because just when things get dark, a light shines in and a whole new life begins. You're reborn. Your life has changed. And though you may have lost your footing for a moment, you're still standing. You're still you.
Will bring me flowers while I'm living.
I was walking down the beach one day,
Well, don't bring them when I'm dead.
and my life changed. The end.
Will bring me flowers while I'm living. Please don't bring them when I'm dead. Bring me a cold drink of water to my bedside. Ooh, Lord, Lord, will lose my aching head. When I'm sick in bed, please come to my rescue.
Bravo. Wow. That was fantastic. We got some comments already, but let's, Ed, I think we can bring everybody on. I don't know, maybe. Let's try to bring everybody on. And wow, that was who's I got one blank space. Oh, is that Edie? Where's there you are. Okay. All right. So we have our entire cast and directors and filmographer. So let's go through, let's introduce ourselves. And I just want to know a little bit more about the role that now this was a
And let's start with Amy because we didn't have Amy before.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Amy, and I
all right, so hang on one sec.
Oh,
but
okay.
So now this was a very collaborative effort here. Everybody did multiple roles, whether it's directing, whether it's acting, whether it's writing. And I want to say we just heard from Amy. Amy, one more time, what was your involvement here?
So I edited this 18-minute film, and it was a really wonderful process that I'd love to talk more about.
All right.
Yeah.
Dick, we know you, but again, tell us a little bit about, every aspect of what we just saw and your involvement within it.
In terms of what we just saw, it was my concept to recreate some of Bettie Page's silent movies, the Fetish Films, the placards from Teaserama. And we have those and we have them forever, and we can use them in future productions with similar voiceover or different voiceover. They're broadcast quality, incredible film. But mostly I had the concept and had initiated the project where we've all been doing research on Bettie Page, but otherwise my hat off to us, Edie.
All right, so Edie, let's hear from you.
Thank you. Well, yes, I obviously played Betty. And then, so I wrote this screenplay of the film. The dialogue is some of the play. Basically, the screenplay is based on the play by Dick and Chicava. So it's got dialogue from that, some research and interview stuff that we have of her, and then some of my own dialogue. Yeah, so the structure of the movie is mine, but based on the story of the play.
All right, and finally, Chicava. Now, you wore a lot of hats over here. You were creative producer, director, writer. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I love creative producing on this kind of project when the job becomes finding the right people and letting them do their thing and giving space for that and holding the space for everybody to be heard and make a contribution. So I want to especially give big love to Kate Dale and Alex Martin and Patrick and Dennis for pulling production design and lighting design. Just, we didn't even know. I was like, how are we going to do this at Coney Island? But they created us a living room. They created a Teaserama set, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And then the editor, I'm so sorry, Christian St. Gallo is a collaborator of Edie's, who is a remarkable graphic artist, and he hobbies as kind of a fashion photographer and content maker. So I knew we needed somebody that Edie would feel comfortable with. So we did that, and he's incredible. And then I knew that we needed a really strong artist to come in and edit it so that it could not be just like a fan tribute film, but really take it to story. And we got Amy. And a neat thing, this is my vanity moment. The coolest thing about finding Amy Grubling is she works at DCTV for a remarkable man named John Alpert, who created most notably the Castro documentary. He'd been following Castro for 30 years. And he's the first person that ever paid me to be an actor. So I felt like that was a beautiful simpatico. And I was like, I need Bettie Page meets Laura Palmer. And she's been in Francine the Lucid Dreams Twin Peaks series with Edie. And I was like, go. And she went. And I'm very excited to hear you talk about your process, Amy, and how you filtered all of these ideas for us.
Yeah, I mean, to begin with, the way when you described the project to me, Chicava, you were saying sort of like Bettie Page meets David Lynch kind of, and I sort of could connect to that right away. So sort of like the style, I think I was familiar with Bettie Page. I'd seen a documentary about her, but I unfortunately hadn't had a chance to see the play when it was put up. So right away, I sort of got a really good sense of what the story was here for this film. And I have to say that the script that Edie wrote was just such a gift because it sort of told me how to edit it. You know, when you write a script, it's usually, you know what you're seeing. And Edie was really great at sort of pointing me in the right direction for knowing what was the most important thing to convey and how to convey it. So the whole editing process was just, it was a joy to have the creative freedom and the trust that Chicava and Edie put in me. And I think, you know, the music helped tell the story in such an amazing way. It really all fell into place. I could see it before I even started cutting it because of all the work everyone had done before me. So it was a beautiful process.
Now, we have to make clear that the 18 or 20-minute video that we just saw is just a part of a larger stage production. So, Dick, can you tell us a little about that? And while Dick is telling us about that, if anyone, again, has any questions, we have a few comments in the chat already. And, you know, just by all means, throw some questions up, throw some comments up in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll get to those.
So what you saw tonight is not a segment of the play, but it serves as a trailer for the whole project. So the play aspires to be a musical with lots of dancing. You've gotten a good sample of our musical foundation, which is the body of work by champion Jack Dupree. You've gotten a sample of the mid-century modern set design and fashion and 1950 New York City coolness that permeates the play. And likely that when we do an expanded version of the play, the second half in particular will work very similar to what you saw tonight, that some of these same exact films edited differently will be projected. And Bettie Page live on stage, older, will be commenting on the film. Some of the same lines, but perhaps other lines. So it's a good sample of what the project is about, but it's not the play. It's a piece unto itself.
Right. And Funhouse Philosophers has experimented in the past, not experimented, but has successfully had multimedia within the plays. So there would be plays and, you know, beautiful edited video showing, you know, through quite...
and that's the challenge of Funhouse Philosophers, is the avant-garde very intellectual wacko side of Coney Island, USA, to push the envelope of how you make theater. Not only can a parade be theater like the Mermaid Parade, not only can a sideshow stay true to its origins but become 21st century, but I like to find unusual ways of doing a play. So you saw one slide where Chicava was talking about introducing the bondage theme. And in 2018, the play just shut down dialogue, and there was about a 10-minute bondage ballet with whips and all types of dancing and leather and bondage going on. I would also in the future, because of Bettie's history with the camera clubs, have a moment in the play that you would never do in real theater, where everyone in the audience is allowed to take out their phones and suddenly take as many flash pictures as they want to and recreate that feeling of a big audience and lots of flash bulbs going off. It's an excitement that you would feel visceral, that reading about it or hearing about it is not the same thing as experiencing.
Tearing down the fourth wall like you did with the Al Capone show with the
Yes.
spaghetti fight.
Yep.
So exactly. All right, let's take some of the comments here. Alex K, that was great. You reminded me of one of my favorite film characters, Seedy, Alabama from True Romance. So Seedy, was that at all in your mind when you were writing, when you were acting that?
That was not at all in my mind when I was writing or acting that. However, I am extremely pleased with the association.
I think you have a new character to pursue as well now.
I know, I got a new act.
Jim K, that was absolutely awesome. J Whatev, fantastic. And Bitter Wonder, that's Marie. I don't know if anyone saw Marie's Ask the Experts last night, but wow.
And Marie
Absolutely
painted
incredible.
the placards on the easels in this film.
Marie made
And
some
Marie comments-
beautiful placards.
Really good editing, beautiful. Congrats to all. So now the interest, I mean, let's talk a little about the placards and the way they segue in between the different parts of Bettie's life. So who came up with that idea, and tell us a little about that?
I again had the concept and said we should do the placards, and we I think we compiled a list that everybody contributed to of topics or themes that we're not only working with, but we might want to work with 2 years from now.
Yeah, it was absolutely collaborative. Dick suggested that we could use the placard concept and told us that Marie would be down to make us some beautiful placards. And then, yeah, I think we made a list and we narrowed it down as the structure became clearer. Yeah.
Did we film any that were not used in this film?
Yes, I believe so. I think there's the casino one.
Casino, because we didn't get into the casino. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to, this was a summary of the eventful life of Bettie Page.
Yes.
Right. So what was on the cutting room floor is what we want to know.
Oh, there's so much good stuff. And we'll tease it, we'll use it and we'll tease it out as long as Amy will have us.
Yeah, I mean, wow, I'm trying to think
now,
of
I mean, because
go ahead, Adam.
Well, because there's so much on, that what minute edit, right? A 35-minute edit.
We didn't shoot that much. We can always, it's nice because it's something that can grow. We worked off what was remaining of our grant money for the project. And I feel like we did really good for our little our very humble budget. I think we made something quite nice and something to grow on, but definitely within the context of the film, like maybe we, as we play with it, we want to start weaving in different aspects of it, like how Champion Jack comes in and different lives. And we didn't dive deep into, I guess I would think if there was a next planned iteration, what I would go further into is this Jesus Saves Life, because we really just took the tip of the iceberg and didn't get into, like, there was a point in time when you would have seen Bettie Page at the airport. She went and lived at the encampment. You know, she was in the cult.
And
you
was
know,
that Oral Roberts?
Jerry Falwell.
Jerry
Falwell. So, and even so, Jerry Falwell and Hugh Hefner spoke at Bettie Page's funeral because she became close to Jerry Falwell, and she was one of the first models in Playboy magazine, and Hugh Hefner never met her at that time. But when I forgive me, but I can't remember the gentleman who made the Rocketeer comic books. But when he found her and met her, he essentially, and I remember in LA that when Amoeba Records was, hopefully it's still there, but there would still, even in like 2007, be a full Bettie Page merchandise display. So he took her to like Amoeba Records, and that's where she learned she was on lunch pails. You know what I mean? So Hugh Hefner stepped in and got her a proper trust attorney and structured her business for her. So she's had a very interesting life, and how to, I think we couldn't do justice to the mental health crises that she went through in a short film. So we have to find ways to do that, which is part of why I leaned toward the kind of David Lynch philosophy of making a film, because he deals with the undertow of life. Like, you can have all this beauty and all this top level stuff, but there's so much more morphine underneath the surface. So I thought that would be a good way to work through that vehicle. So maybe that's something we'd explore more.
That's great.
And also, I
Now,
think this just to say that this movie is kind of playing two roles. One as a kind of an offshoot of workshopping the play and the content of the play, but also serving as kind of a teaser trailer for further funding and further workshopping of the play. And I think that because of that, we wanted to summarize, but as well, you know, there's a bit of a difference when you go from stage to screen in terms of the suspension of disbelief. And I think we all felt that, you know, it would make a lot more sense to focus on the first half of her life with this film, and kind of tease the later stuff. Just because when, you know, one person can play Betty in the play and you kind of believe that it's Betty the whole time, but she lived several lives, this woman did. And we didn't really, as Chicava said, we didn't want to skim over a lot of the deeper struggles that she had later. But as well, you know, we weren't going to do a thing where we put me in old age makeup and suddenly I'm old Betty, you know, not for a film. It's a little bit different. So I think that was kind of the impetus to kind of take these important points, especially from the first half, and kind of circle around that and then kind of tease the rest. Yeah.
Now,
one thing I like that's coming out that I think you've done a great job summarizing that connects with the through line I had in 2018, which is as simple as your life can change in a day. And Betty proves that again and again, not only getting discovered in Coney Island, deciding to leave New York, deciding to find Jesus, deciding to work with Hugh Hefner and make some money. There were multiple times in her life, and I think it's in some ways the overall arch of telling her story is your life can change in one day.
There's something really
Absolutely.
beautiful about that. And I think, like, in a way, that was something I was meditating a lot on during the edit of this. And I'm sure there's a lot of people here who had a chance encounter at Coney Island that changed their life in some way. So it was a really beautiful theme to be exploring in a film.
Absolutely. Also, I'm not sure, have we shouted out the other actors? Because I would like to do that. Also, thank
Please
you to
do.
Robert, who played Irving Claw, and Francine the Lucid Dream, who played both June King and Roz Greenwood, two fetish film ladies that we kind of amalgamated into one to wrestle around with me, as well as Samson Knight, who is playing our Tibbs. And such as the nature of filmmaking, he didn't make it into this cut, but he's going to make it into the next one. Next week, we're going to show another film, the final cut of this film. So in the interest of collaboration, I just wanted to mention that as well, because all of those people were instrumental as much as these people here in terms of making this project as special as it was,
Now, Ed B has a question, and the question is, will you explore Betty's modeling collaboration with Bunny Yeager in Florida?
Yeah, I'm sorry to jump in here. I mean,
that would be so fun, because it's such, and the work is prolific. And hi, Ed, we're all so glad you're here and feeling good. The collaboration was prolific, the relationship tumultuous. We just didn't have the budget. Like everything that she did with Bunny Yeager is so elevated. You need a leopard.
Yeah.
where's my ride on a boat? Like, you gotta put me on a boat. Yeah, Bunny's a whole story into and of itself. I would love to dive deeper into that.
Because Bunny wouldn't even give Betty pictures. She wouldn't give Betty the rights to her pictures. Nothing. Betty probably didn't buy pictures from her, but yeah, she really pretty shrewd.
All right, we've got a comment from Linda. Hi, this is Linda. Very nice portrayal of one woman's life. It was simple and innocent, but that's what makes art work. It's not easy to make a large life simple. I'm going to follow up with a question. When can we expect the stage show to be presented? Obviously, it's difficult to say with COVID and whatnot, but things do seem to be on the mend.
So that's something that all of you can change out there with your donations. However, we get small grants. We try and manage to do one major theater presentation a year. Next year, I think we have to remount Bloody Brains in the Jukebox, the show that was in previews before quarantine, and give that show a chance. So in a worst case scenario, no more than 2 years, but when your donations roll in, we'll get back to work in a couple of months, right?
There you go. I mean, if that's not a pitch for, making those donations, fly in. Do it.
There's producers out there. Yeah, we'll sign a film contract and just jump off of the stage right to the big screen. We just need your investment and contributions.
And there you have it. All right. If anyone else has anything to share with us, now's the time. Any other questions? We've cleared the Q&A and the chat. So anyone from the production, writers, actors, filmmakers, anything else to share? If not, we will
I
give
think
our
this
closing.
in some ways was a world premiere of part of the work we've been doing. And I think all of us who made it are tickled pink, and thank you for your reactions. It seems positive.
All right. I think it was very positive. I mean, I certainly thought the film was terrific. The stills were great. The film was fantastic. I would love to see, like I said earlier, an extended version of it. But, just planting the seeds, just throwing them out there. That
2
said,
hours
everybody,
on the American experience.
hey, listen, do it. If you got the time, but they need the money. So that's where all of you friends who are watching come in. All right, let's wrap up. We'll talk a little about some of the upcoming events that we have being broadcast here over the next couple of weeks. And then as traditional, sort of with our Ask the Experts, we will have our, quote, after party, which means that everyone will hang out. We can't kick any of the viewers off because then we end the entire program, but we'll just sort of, pat backs and whatnot afterwards and tell everybody what a great job we've done. So coming up next week on Wednesday, May 19th, Richard Egan. If you're a Coney Island fan, a Coney Island file, you know the name Richard Egan. You want to check that out. And if you don't, you'll want to check it out because Richard is a vault, a history vault, and we'll be sharing some incredible stories. On May 26th, strongman, calisthenics expert, Danny Cavadlo, Brooklyn guy, and this guy is just unbelievable. The things that he can do, and I mean, for lack of a better phrase, the physique that this guy has. So he might teach you a thing or two about, getting strong. On June 2nd, Mark and Mark from Weird, New Jersey. That's right. The Weird New Jersey guys are going to be on the Coney Island, USA Zoom. Ask the Experts, and you can ask them anything you'd like about how weird New Jersey is, and it is pretty weird. On June 9th, Trav SD is coming back. He's not going to be talking about Rose's midgets. He's going to be talking about other little people. So be sure to check in on that one. And again, 1 week from tonight, we have part 2 of Becoming Bettie Page. That's on May 20th, 1 week from tonight. The Bettie Page continues in the workshop model right here on Zoom. So friends, on behalf of Coney Island USA, on behalf of the Funhouse Philosophers, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in this evening. We hope to see you back again next week. And for all intents and purposes, the broadcast is actually over, but we're not leaving so soon. So now is like our official after party. So Ed, we can bring everybody back and we can just say, just kind of informally talk. We can sort of loosen our belts, so to speak, and informally chat. Whew. All right. Well, that was fun.
That was wonderful.
That's great. Thank you, everybody.
Real good.
The movie was really fantastic. Just beautifully shot, beautifully edited, acted, everything. Written, it was terrific. Francine, thank you. Great film and presentation. See you again next week.
Thanks,
Right.
Francine. Thanks, Francine, for wrestling with me.
So this film could not have been possible except for the larger family that works out of Coney Island, USA, the neo-burlesque movement. Otherwise, Chicava, Seedy, Edie, people like Francine wouldn't be hanging out in Coney Island and working with us. And then the usuals like Kate Deal, Marie Roberts, Alex, Kate, Patrick. It's great how collaborative and how smoothly and professionally this project came together.
A well-oiled showbiz machine.
Sometimes.
That was really a lot of fun. See, now's the time that we would have a drink. But, we're all, Chicava's in space and
Drinking in space.
So you can drink in space.
You can. It doesn't float out your glass. Well, it clearly floated out my glass.
There was no
but-
glass.
Yeah.
There's two more
The glass
lovely
floated
bottles.
in.
Yes. Isn't this neat? This is what I'm loving about the green screen today. I haven't green screened in a while. The glass is gone. The glass is here.
It's like, it's so Star Trek.
And it's
Do
gone.
you change your galaxy time to time?
I have about 50 Hubble pictures.
Ooh, really? I love
yeah,
it.
I'm an outer space junkie.
Marie, I liked that this film had a point of view or a thing that was not just a rehash of a stage show. It was totally like its own thing.
Yeah, it's really fun. Honestly, I love the trailer as a form. It's such an interesting way to think about a story. And so I think it kind of is its own thing, but it also really tells you what you're going to see in the stage show. And I think that hopefully this can be a really great marketing tool, a pitch reel to help drum up support for the play in the future. So.
All right. So let's see. I guess we can call it quits now, huh? Unless anyone, like I said, unless anyone has anything else to say, we will say goodbye and see everybody next week. How's that?
Next week.
Sounds good.
Come next week.
Hey, Adam and Ed, thank you. This went fairly smooth. Great job all around. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ed, thanks
And happy birthday, Dick.
Happy birthday, Dick.
Well, this is
Happy
the
birthday,
best
Dick.
present I got, like a world premiere. Woo!
Woo woo.
Quality work.
Bravo.
Yeah. And if you loved it and you just want to see it again, just slightly more polished, just come back next week and have a party again.
That's right. Bring your own booze.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The freak bar is
Thank you,
not yet
everyone.
open. All right. Thank you, Dick. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see everybody next week. Hopefully, we'll see all of you out there, all our viewers. We'll see you next week as well. So have a great night. Stay safe. Stay healthy. If you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated so that we can all party together at Coney Island, USA. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Adam.
You're very welcome. Bye.
Bye.